So I was just reading this new report out by Yelp, the app that I use to find restaurants when I'm traveling. Maybe you use it too. And this statistic is shocking to me. Okay, between January and July of this year, there were 33,251 new restaurant listings added to Yelp in the United States. That's a lot of places where you can have dinner at now. So I guess my question is, with all of these new restaurants opening, how do you as a restaurant operator get heard amongst all of this din, amongst all of these competing voices? At the same time, we're seeing all these new restaurants open. We're seeing this rise in celebrity-backed brands. And you've seen it on your social media, you've seen it on TV, from whiskey to makeup, and of course, restaurants, celebrity restaurants too. So what I want to know is, do you have to be a famous person in order to succeed and cut through all of this noise? So that's what we're digging into today. We've got renowned chef Marcus Samuelsson here. And even if you've never eaten at Red Rooster or one of his other many restaurants, you've probably seen him on TV, maybe read one of his books, heard one of his podcasts. Honestly, his credits are too long for me to get into here, but we're going to talk to Chef in just a minute. We've also got Ebere Anokute with my team at JLL. He's written a report on the rise of celebrity-backed brands. And yes, it is true. You are not wrong in thinking there are a lot more of them than there were like 10 or 15 years ago. And we're going to talk about why that is. Plus, we've got Sarah Malcom. She's with Quiet Valor Ad Agency. And she's going to talk about working with celebrities and influencers and, how it works, what the actual strategy is around it. Plus, we've got Jay Norris, CEO of Guesst. And I think this is Jay's third time on the show. Jay, I didn't tell you this, but when you get to 5, you get a mug, I think. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But you're working your way to 5. And Jay is here to talk about the Open Doors initiative. He's partnering with Chef Samuelsson on this initiative that's going to lower barriers of entry for Black entrepreneurs. And we're going to hear all about that as well right now on Everything We Know About Retail. This is the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail, restaurants, and real estate. We broadcast live on LinkedIn and YouTube, but you don't have to watch us live. You can check out the replay anytime. Just go to everythingweknow.show. That URL will take you to our YouTube page. While you're there, you can always subscribe, but you make sure you won't miss any videos that we post, any interviews, all of that good stuff right there at everythingweknow.show. So my name is James Cook. I'm coming to you live from Indiana. I research retail and real estate for JLL. If you are watching live, it's time to type your questions into the chat. We're going to get to as many of your questions for our guests as we can. Keisha Virtue is in the chat room today, so say hi to Keisha. Keisha, you can say hi to everybody. And she's there also to answer any questions that you might have. She's a research expert on our team as well. But let's get into it. Let's join our first guest today, Chef Marcus Samuelsson. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm fantastic. We're so excited to have you here. For our viewers, Chef Samuelsson is a renowned chef behind restaurants, a lot of different ones, including Red Rooster Harlem. He won 8 James Beard Awards, which, Chef, that's more than the number of James Beard restaurants that I've eaten at. So you're miles above me.
Well, you should get out more, James. That's all I can tell you. But anyway.
Well, sir, I live in Indiana, so it's not like in New York, you stumble over a James Beard Award when you're walking down the sidewalk, right?
Well, the Indiana, that's where the Jacksons came from. So there's a lot of fame to that. So
you're absolutely right. That's one of our big claims to fame is the entire Jackson family. So let's get into it. So I was thinking about your career as I was planning for this. And one of the first big jumps in your career was when you were executive chef at Aquavit. You became the youngest chef to ever receive a 3-star review in the New York Times. And that was way back in 1995. So at that time, was there any inkling, was there an understanding that one could become a multimedia food personality? Was that type of thing even on your radar at the time?
Well, I think I want to go back even before that. I think for me, it's always been around the love of cooking and the love of sharing in restaurants. And I was very fortunate to have mentors and worked in the best top restaurants in the world in France. And as I was there as a young student, I really saw this. The chef I was working for, Georges Blanc, he was a superstar chef in that community. So I saw something like there were restaurants and then there were Georges Blanc. And then there was also this phenomena of like a Wolfgang Puck in Los Angeles that, this is literally around where internet starts. So I didn't have that much connection to it, but I had a Wolfgang Puck book. So there was these mega stars like Alain Ducasse, Georges Blanc, Wolfgang Puck. And I felt like, wow, in America, there's a shot to really have beyond a restaurant that maybe celebrity came to, but it wasn't just so much around the celebrity. It was really about sharing your vision of food. And that is still what I believe in. Then it's also about what era and being lucky, right? I came to the States around the same time as Food Network started. So, food before that on media would have lived on PBS and, Jacques Papin and Julia Childs, who did an amazing job to really train and share food in America on a one level. But once Food Network took on sort of in the late 90s, early 2000s, it pushed us into a space. And then you add sort of internet and food, and you talked about, Yelp, but there are many, many places. So once internet and food really connected, I would say probably around when the iPhone came out, around 2006, 2007, that kicked it into another level because now Food Network, Bravo, Top Chef, now food is becoming part of pop culture. And now you have accessibility on your phone. That space is something as a great chef, if you really push and have the right opportunity, you can create the space where people can really engage with you. And obviously, if I think about my son that is only 7, he doesn't watch any of that because obviously his food lives on TikTok and maybe IGs or Reels or something like that, right? So every generation is going to have their Julia Childs, if you will, and none of this would have happened to me if I would have cooked, let's say, in the 50s and the 60s. You know what I mean? So it's really era, understanding what area you're in, pushing, and building around that.
I grew up with the PBS chefs, like the Frugal Gourmet. You mentioned
Yes.
Julia Childs. So that's my, I'm probably about your same age. And I'm still struggling to, I'm ashamed to admit, like figure out TikTok and how to make it a part of my life. Are you engaging at all with TikTok?
I mean, we mostly on Instagram, but eventually we'll do great fun stuff with TikTok as well. And I think that I'm open. I think you have to meet if you're gonna be like we have restaurants in 7 countries. We think about food equity and really how to meet people. You have to, if you're going to be in retail, which restaurant is part of retail, you have to meet people where they're at. So I would never say I'm against this platform because that might be the platform that pushes the dish into space and makes it much more understandable. So I think part of, operating in whether it's in Harlem or whether it's in downtown with our new restaurant Metropolis, in the Wall Street area, financial district, we are where we want to be where the customers are at. We want the customers to have it easy as possible to see us, meet us, understand what we're doing, and be excited what we're doing. So, today we talk about Instagram, TikTok. What are we talking about 5 years from now, where when I've got my mug like Jay on this program, I don't know what that is, but I'm not going to be against a new platform.
Right. So it's all, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's all storytelling, right? And you are somebody, you've written books, you've written a memoir, cookbooks, you've done podcasts, TV shows, web stuff. It's all very in your voice. Whatever you do, from a recipe you create to a video you post, you have an unmistakable voice. And so you're an author of all those things. Now, I imagine that's because of your background and everything that's shaped you, and you have such a unique history. Can you, like, let's say I'm somebody new starting out, can I develop a voice, or is it just like, this is my life, this is who I am, this is what I'm stuck with?
Well, I think it's different for everybody, James. And I think, the Black experience in the professional world is very unique. And it's if you're not Black, it might sometimes be hard to understand. But for us as Black people, we live with this experience every day. And, Blackness for me is also giving me a focus and a clear choice of inspiration. The choices where I had to be, it made me more focused. I had to really push to be the number one student or whatever it was. It just gave me a clear focus of how much better I had to be. And that people can say that's harsh or difficult, but it also prepared me to be an entrepreneur in New York City in several different decades, right? And when I think about coming as an immigrant or coming as a Black person into this country, where you have historically harder to get access to financial institutions and capital in general, you need to have thick skin to be in retail. Yeah. And because there are different types of laws might change, or different, audience might change. So you just it preps you in a way, and is really giving me go back to this focus. And you talk about sense of voice. What you quickly realize is that, when I cooked in Midtown, I didn't want to be the only one in the room, whether I was as a Black chef or people who dined in my restaurant. So obviously, you work as hard as you can to open up the space and create, I had great mentors that opened up the door for me. And how can I, have mentees that can sort of come behind us, and so the landscape looks different, right? That's part of it. I think one of those unwritten rules that most people think about when they make it. How can they change the narrative in conversation? And we think about that in terms of female leadership in hospitality, but of course also about Black and brown in terms of retail and restaurants. So our success, my success, the team has built really allows us to be in many spaces, whether it's changing how hospitality looks like, whether it's being part of a retail conversation in the endeavor with Guesst and Open Doors that Jay and I collaborate on, which I think is an amazing opportunity. But regardless, I meet people of color in the real estate space, in the retail space, in the chef space. We share those experiences. And it's something we all share about how do we make it better. And I think that's an endless, that's a journey that we're going to be on for a long time. And I appreciate venues like this where you can share it, talk about it, because it's not going to be fixed by, it's not a baseball scenario where you just like hit it out of the park and boom, it's fixed. Like I wish it was that easy, but it's not. But it's also, I take a lot of joy from working in this space because I meet wonderful, wonderful people. Yesterday, Jay and I had the opportunity to talk to maybe like 100 young entrepreneurs in collaboration with the mayor's office. You see that spark. You see that incredible, I came to New York to start my business. I learned something from the journey, where I was on before, but now it's my time. That's exactly who I was. That's exactly who Jay was.
So one of the things that I've heard I heard in an interview you say is that, when you were starting out, the narrative of a Black chef didn't even exist. Like it just was something that nobody had even seen. Now today, obviously things are different. When you talk to young Black chefs today, how do they feel? Like what obstacles are they facing today?
Well, I would say the Black Chef was definitely there, but it was an anonymous journey. So now you go from the anonymous journey to the visible journey, and people want to be seen, and people want to know their worth, and people want to drive towards getting customers. And you can't drive customers if you're not seen, if you're not heard. So I mean, we've had amazing Black chefs for hundreds and hundreds of years in this country, cooking for the presidents, cooking, doing the work in domestic works from the highest office, but never get acknowledged. And then we've had local success, very often incredible Black women starting sort of local mom and pop restaurant, like such as Sylvia's here in Harlem, or Dooky Chase in New Orleans, and so on. But on a nationwide opportunity to really share a stage, now is the first time, over the last 10 years, is the first time where you truly see that. And that's what America is. It's a diverse country, and to see it in the Latin space, and to see it in the Asian American space, and to it's all American food that we as consumers and as chefs have the opportunity to celebrate. Sometimes we cook it, sometimes we're on the other side as consumers. And just like we have great American music that have so many different diverse voices, we have the same stories to tell around food.
I love it. I love a good food story. Well, let's bring in Jay. So Jay Norris, who I know is the CEO of Guesst, is also working with you on this Open Doors initiative. So tell us a little bit about like what this initiative is all about. What are you guys trying to achieve?
Hey, James. Hey. So Mark, how you doing?
How are you?
All right. So James, thanks for having us again. As you said, I've been on 3 times. I'm shooting for 5. So I appreciate that. Earlier,
that's when you get 3 is a refrigerator magnet. 5 is a mug. I don't know. I make it up as I go.
I can actually make it a little bit better for you, James. Yeah. You can come to New York and eat in one of our restaurants, and we're going to go beyond mugs. We're actually going to have a great meal here.
All right. Well, I will be in New York in, I think, a month or 2. So, Jay, we're meeting up. We're doing it.
We'll set it up. We'll set that up, because if I hit 5, we'll be working on the next podcast coming up in Q4. All right.
Love it.
So anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about the Guesst Open Doors Initiative. Okay. So let me first tell you about the Guesst software platform, because it leads into that. So the Guesst software platform is a third-party verification platform that allows a property owner, gives them a view of their multiple tenants' daily sales performance. So retailers and restaurants. Okay. So that, and people go, well, why did you create something like this? What we believe, the Guesst team and I, we believe this, that consumer insights drives the retail real estate ecosystem, right? And we believe that there's 4 major players: property owners, the lenders, the global brokerages, and the merchant or the retailer or restaurateur. However, we look back and we say, well, what fuels this industry? Consumer insights in real time. The merchant, the restaurateur, and the merchant sit on this data. And then the other 3 cohorts have to get this data later on. And we said, what if this could be shared instantly? We believe that if the data is shared instantly, it will strengthen the relationships between those 4 cohorts. Okay. And so one of the reasons why we created the Guesst Open Doors initiative was because if we're sharing data with a property owner, they'll be more inclined to create what we call a flexible leasing arrangement with the tenant or the restaurant or retailer. Okay. Because essentially they can still have a floor and then some kind of break points or percentage rents. We like to call it performance-based leasing software. And so the Guesst Open Doors initiative said, remember, Marcus and I got together and said, wait a minute. But this needs to work for underrepresented businesses. Okay. So the cohort that we were speaking about earlier, that's minority businesses. There's barriers to entry. And so the Guesst Open Doors initiative actually started with our customers that have already using our product, and they have allowed and said, look, we'd like to create pop-up opportunities for underrepresented businesses. However, we want to be able to track their sales immediately, figure out how they're performing, and then we move from there. So we like to call them incubator labs. So our first one here is we have sites in LA, the Beverly Center in LA. We have Bryant Park here, Holiday Market, which is a big one. And they've dedicated 10 spaces for the Holiday Market, which is one of the largest in North America. And it launches in November. So we're working on that. Marcus is helping hand select the right businesses, Black businesses that he knows will perform well, and we both do. And so we're excited about this journey. And it's not just restaurants; it's retail as well. Dry goods.
That's fantastic. And Holiday Market, isn't that operated by Urban Space?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Urban Space. Yeah, they've been one of our first champions with Guest, and they really love the product. We've been operating all their food halls, managing those as far as the sales, automated sales reporting. And we also they helped us refine a feature that allows us to pay them on a daily. We pay them, we know exactly how the percentage rent is calculated, right? And then we pay them on a weekly or monthly cadence, whichever they prefer, but we hold the money daily and pay them. And the merchants are very excited about it because they said, thank you, because we're not accountants. And we don't understand exactly how to exclude tax and tips and everything else on top of percentage rent and pay the property owners. So we've kind of worked as that, we expedite a lot of their pain points in that area.
So it sounds like right now you're recruiting retailers, other entrepreneurs to kind of be a part of this project.
Yes.
Have you had, do you have any success stories yet? Folks you've worked with?
Yes, we do. Yeah. We have numerous success stories. We had a guy, remember Marcus, my guy at Hot Dog Box. He's just so proud. We love this guy. He runs something called the Hot Dog Box in Chicago. And he also is coming to New York to do some spaces. But he's so excited because that was one of our, we had to uncover that because a lot of our property owners had the product first and the merchants didn't know about Guest. And they didn't know that they could utilize us to actually negotiate a more of an amicable, they call it an amicable arrangement, leasing arrangement. And he was one of the first to say, thank you. And he said, thank you, Mr. J. I was like, what do you mean? He said, and thank you, because I found a retail home, right? But you've helped me with my accounting and my systems to be able to keep this relationship and strengthen that partnership between the property owner and the tenant.
But I also think for me, what's exciting about this, it's also the core of what runs America. As an immigrant, I have a different view on America. I'm super patriotic about this country that I love. But also, one of the reasons why I want to come to America is because you're allowed to dream. And you can have a crazy thought. And you ask a lot of what ifs. And there's other people that dream. And to be able to because think about a lot of entrepreneurs in the hospitality space, they come from, this is their second or third career.
Yeah.
So they're extremely smart, a lot of experiences, but maybe not in cooking or maybe not in this particular thing, donuts, whatever, hot dogs it might be. Yep. But so they need tools to be successful. But what they do know is they know the other side. They've been customers before. They know how they want to be treated and talked to. They know how quickly they want to pay something or get it paid or expedited. So tools like this moves truly entrepreneurship forward, and it does bring the community, the property owner, closer to understand the vision of the person that they signed up, but also how to execute in this particular opportunity, maybe the smaller business, but who knows what that business is going to be 5 years from now. That's really key, that this is part of truly allowing people to build, which is one of the hardest things to do when you start a business.
Yeah, no, and Marcus, to piggyback on that, Marcus always used the analogy of like Shake Shack. And I remember going there, right? It was a food truck, like it was just there. Yeah. And I think about the tools. Not everyone has those resources that Danny Meyer has. And that's kind of what we talk about is like, how do we create this suite of services are partnership opportunities that these brands can use to grow and build their vision and their dream. And so that's really what we sit back and Guest is one of those cylinders, but we're imagining all the other suite of services that it's going to take for that business to achieve their goals.
I love it. So you're focusing, I know, Jay, when you and I talked about this before, right now the focus is on Black businesses, but your idea is to sort of expand that and help lower barriers for others as well.
This is, I mean, we're doing the minority. I guess we're just wrapping Black Business Month, right?
Yeah,
We're just wrapping it up. But next it'd be women's businesses. And like I said, other underrepresented business owners, right? We feel as though that's a cohort that needs the support the most. So let's make sure that we address that. But of course, Guest software is in 58 markets across the U.S. right now. As far as we have property owners all over the country.
And I think supporting businesses that wants to, evolve. Like yesterday when we gave our talk, we had a young Latinx entrepreneur that she was so ready to go, but she needed a space and support, right?
Yep.
And so I think we can go to several different communities, and because you want to empower people that most time doesn't have access to traditional and institutional financing, right? Mm-hmm. And the more people as this is about job creation and expediting a vision, and having people to create great retail experiences, and that will always evolve.
Yep. Yeah. No,
I love it.
Our whole, I sit back and go, so what are we really doing from a 30,000 square feet looking down? Is, our job is to kind of invigorate. Our mission is to invigorate, to increase opportunities, demand, and value for the whole retail real estate ecosystem. Because who wants to live in a total homogenous society? You're walking down the streets now in New York, certain areas, it's just nothing there. And I believe that retail and restaurants are the backbone and the fiber of all neighborhoods and communities throughout the U.S. And we have to support this.
I could not agree more. So Jay, if folks want to get involved and learn more, what website should they check out?
They should check out Guest, Guesst, .co. And people always ask, why'd you put another S there? To trademark the word as well. And then if there's any merchants or property owners that would like to sign up to the Guest list, it's the Guest list, GUESSTLIST.co. Okay.
I thought it was because, Samuelsson always have double S's in Sweden, but in America, you have to cut one of the S's.
That's
what it was because of that.
Now you know what? Next time.
Yeah.
And Chef Samuelsson, you're involved in so many things. Is there anything that you want to remind folks to check out?
I think this is a great initiative. I'm really proud to work with Jay and his team on this. We've already met so many great people that wants to get involved from all aspects, right? It's really interesting when property owners have been in business generationally and they come to us and say, how can we get involved? Because of the pandemic, everyone realized the way we battled 2019 is not going to be the same way we're going to battle in many ways in 2024, right? So it's actually created a market space where people are talking to each other now, in a completely different way, and that's been exciting. Obviously on Marcus Cooks, you can follow me, you find out, come to the restaurant in New York, or in, we're in Atlanta, we're in several different markets, we're in several different places, but my love for cooking and my love for people is really the core of why we build restaurants together, me and my team. And it's been, obviously the pandemic was a very, very challenging time, not just for our industry, but I think particularly for hospitality. And Jay touched on it a little bit, right? If you close your eyes and during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, imagining neighborhoods without traditional retail, those are not communities that sounds or looks very exciting to us, right? So retail is so vital for just to be for the energy of that town community, and not only the big cities. I'm talking like, you know, in regular neighborhoods. And, you know, if you don't have your local barber shop, your local coffee shop, your local restaurant, your local hub, it's not really a neighborhood, is it? You know what I mean? So this is the core of this, and I'm really excited to be part of that.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we need to the retail amenities.
Yeah.
We need them, and we all need them for our neighborhoods and communities to thrive.
And that's, you know, what, you know, you're trying to create with this initiative. So Chef Marcus Samuelsson, Jay Norris with Guesst, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a fascinating conversation, and have a great rest of your day to both of you.
All right. I'm going to look for that Jay Cook, to come in the restaurant and book. Right. Maybe we get you in, okay?
Jay Norris is going to, he and I are going to go together.
There you go. All
right, James. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right. It's time to bring in our next guest. Now we're talking more about celebrity retail with my friend Sarah Malcom with Quiet Valor. Welcome, Sarah.
Great to be here. And by the way, when I come to New York, probably the same time when you're going, I'm coming.
Yeah. We're going, and we're going to be joined by Ebere in a few minutes. He's based out of New York and goes to Harlem quite a bit. So, you know, I feel like we got a group trip on our hands right now. So for folks out there that, if you're not familiar with Sarah, I don't know how you wouldn't be. Sarah is one of the top 25 women founders in commercial real estate. She's on that list. You were on the CREI movement list of influential women in commercial real estate. You have your own ad agency, Quiet Valor, and now you used to live in New York, right? But now you're in Orlando.
Yes. Yeah, we did the pandemic move along with a lot of other New Yorkers.
You're not the only one. So I know, like, you and I have been talking about this topic for a while, and you've worked with celebrities in the past. So that's why I wanted to have you on. Does it make sense? Like, let's say I'm a rock star. Does it make sense for me to open up a restaurant? Is that purely like just a cash grab? What do you think?
I mean, absolutely. It was funny because, restaurant, clothing line, retail, I mean, they're all doing it, right? They've seen this avenue that they can make a lot more money leveraging their popularity. And I think it was last week, I was at the Beyonce concert, and I went there, obviously, I was sitting third row. I was there to watch Beyonce, but I ended up watching the people, like the entire show, because it was so entertaining to see all of these fans so passionate about Beyonce, right? It was like they knew every dance move. They were wearing the boots that she wears. They were wearing the eyewear that she wears. They were wearing the cowboy hat that was on the album. I mean, they covered all their bases in trying to connect with this celebrity as much as possible. And it was just amazing to watch. Like, it really was. And so, but that's the whole idea behind this. I was a guest of Pharrell Williams in Miami a couple of years ago at his restaurant Swan. And we walked in there. It was so fun. We got to try like everything on the menu. It was a great food. But, when we were sitting at the table, I couldn't help but watch everyone around us. I mean, they were so excited. I mean, they were so excited to see the person that they were hoping to see while going to that restaurant. And I think that is, secretly when you're going to, Justin Timberlake's restaurant in New York, his barbecue spot. Anyway, I know everyone secretly be like, is Justin going to be there? Right? Like, and so, and honestly, like, obviously Swan was amazing. There's a few that I've been to, the food's not so great, but it's still in business. And I really think that's because of that celebrity cosign, right? Because, what else can you have mediocre food and still be open?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was recently in Hollywood at Melrose Place doing some stuff. And I'm always thinking, oh, is that a famous person? Oh, is that a famous person? Like, you just get, as me as the common person, I always just get excited. So yeah, I mean, why not trade on that?
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, if you've got, I mean, especially, you know, when Marcus was mentioning that, you know, pop culture is so influential, and now, you know, more than ever, there's so much access that people have to these celebrities. It's easy to just start something. It's not easy, but it's easier than the average person to just start something and make it profitable.
So there's, you know, it used to be like 40 years ago, there was just famous people and everybody else. And now there's levels. And
Right.
there's things called micro influencers. And so below that is where I am, you know, is the sub micro influencer. But my question for you is, let's say I'm starting a restaurant, I'm starting a store. Do I have to either become an influencer or pay an influencer or micro influencer to advertise me? Is it unavoidable?
Yeah. So, I mean, it helps, right? It definitely helps to leverage somebody else's audience to promote whatever you're promoting. But I had a friend who was launching. I don't know if you remember those cases that they were like selfie light cases. That when you took a selfie, the whole case would light up, and
Yep.
it's almost like a ring light, right?
Yep.
So he was doing that. So they partnered with Kim Kardashian. That's when Kim Kardashian was still doing those types of promotions before she had, you know, Skims and all the things. And so it took off. It took off just from her promoting it. And she obviously got a piece of the business. And so, yes, it for sure helps, right? But especially in our industry, everybody doesn't have those huge like $1 million budgets, or, you know, a developer's not willing to be like, here's stock and here's a percentage of my business, right? That's not a thing yet. You never know. But so it takes time. And so I think the one thing that people are doing that's creative, we have some clients that we work with that are doing these Yelp parties. I don't know if you've heard of them. And so they're inviting like all the top Yelp reviewers to their space, their restaurant, their retail store, and they're throwing an event. Right. And it's a great way to invite those micro influencers. And of course, what are they going to do? Well, they need content, right? So they're going to be posting, they're going to be, you know, sharing, and that's free promotion. So there's lots of different ways to partner at different levels with these influencers or micro influencers.
So does that mean if let's say your client is a restaurant, would you advise them to specifically make menu items that were flashy for TikTok? Like, I don't know, sparklers or smoke or something like that?
I mean, TikTok has definitely, I mean, it's stepped up my game in the kitchen. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's just, I think it's more, I think people can see through the sparklers. I mean, that's fun, but I think it's more about storytelling, right? And so how can you tell the story? Because that's what people really love. I mean, when you're scrolling through TikTok and you're seeing all of the, you know, whenever there's a story, I'm hooked. Like I'm hooked instantly, right? And so we're shooting some film now for a restaurant, and they're partnering with a celebrity, and we're focused on the story, because the story, I mean, once it's out, it's incredible. And so I feel like you should more focus on the story. And you know, the fireworks are fine and the glitz and glamour, that's cool, but the story is what's really gonna develop that deep rooted relationship with the customer.
What's an example of a story that like a restaurant? Is it about the founder's origin story? You know, yeah, that's the real deal.
It is like, so like where do they come from, right? Like, were they immigrants? Did it start around the family, you know, the table, right, in their home? Is that where the idea started, and bringing family together? And, you know, now maybe they're bringing that culture and that, you know, that familia feel to the masses, right? And so, you know, and then obviously throwing in the glitz and glamour with the celebrity client does not hurt at all.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in my coworker, JLO researcher Ebere Anokute, who is following the trend. Ebere joining us from New York.
Absolutely.
Could I say something real quick? When I was with you guys in Vegas, I know you remember this, and you were telling me about this whole idea around this report. I was so excited. I was like, finally somebody's who like jumping into like the pop culture scene, who gets it. And you did such a great job. I just have to give a quick shout out. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll say that if you want to read Ebere's Celebrity Retail Report, it is available for free download over at jll.com. Just go to the insights section of the website, and probably the fastest way is just search for celebrity, and check it out. The findings are fascinating, and I don't think anybody's covered this quite the way you did, Ebere. So first of all, talk about like numbers. Like clearly there are way more celebrity brands, right? I mean, but you've now got the data to back that up, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, like Sarah was saying, back in May or so, it was more of just an idea that we were working through. And I just kept feeling I was getting these signals from, the market and from just scrolling social media that there were so many celebrities, not only starting brands, but actually opening retail stores as well, And so we, did some of the research, dug into it, and we found that celebrities have opened over 300,000 square feet of space in the last decade. And so while that number isn't necessarily astronomical, I think what's important to note is the number of brands that have started in the last 6 years, which is around 60% of all of these brands. So we're certainly somewhat at the beginning of what I think is going to continue to be a wave. And it's a wave that was actually accelerated by COVID, and the way that COVID accelerated a lot of other trends, we saw that when it came to these, almost 40% of modern brands were launched since 2020, right? There was sort of a perfect storm of celebrities not being able to go out and, go to their movie sets and go on tour. And so they were at home looking for additional streams of revenue. And at the same time, we were not allowed to really leave our houses either. And so we were on our phones scrolling up and down. And so sort of a perfect ecosystem for them to market these products to us and to see some real growth as a result. So I think it's important to pay attention to sort of this phenomenon, because it's one that's really going to grow in the coming years, thanks to not only growing customer acquisition costs online. You were asking, Sarah, if someone who wants to start a business now should, become an influencer or should, work with influencers. And I mean, I think the answer is kind of, right? I feel like nowadays, if you really want to break through the noise, it's important, like Sarah said, to be able to tap into someone else's audience and to expand your, name recognition that way. And I think we're seeing these celebrities act as their own influencers, so this whole influencer marketing ecosystem is really becoming best practices, I think, when it comes to marketing different companies and brands. And the celebrities with their massive followings are able to, cut through the noise directly and sell what it is that they're trying to sell, what they're known for, the clothes, the jewelry, the perfume, whatever it is, directly to their sizable fan bases who, like Sarah mentioned, are extremely passionate about them. I also was able to see Beyonce on this tour, so I can confirm everything Sarah said. It is just as entertaining to watch the crowd as it is to watch, the artist herself, because they're just so enthralled, and everything about that day and getting to see her, it's really overwhelming. And that sort of emotional connection is what's going to keep this aspect of the retail industry going for many years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so Beyonce, she doesn't have a restaurant though, but who was
Ivy Park? She's got Ivy Park.
Oh, okay.
It's the collab, and they're in stores. I mean,
Gotcha. So thinking about celebrity brands, one that pops to mind, Ebere, the last time I was with you in New York, we went to OVO, Drake's apparel store. They've got a number of locations, but they're either the two off the top of my head, one is in a Class A mall in Toronto. The other one is in a city street in a cool shopping area in Manhattan. Yeah. Is that typical? Like, what's, based on the data, where's the most typical place for a celebrity to open a store?
Yeah, James, you're spot on. From what we found, most of these celebrities opt for some combination of street retail in some of these prime corridors. So in New York, you can think of Soho. In LA, you can think of like Abbot Kinney, that area, or mall locations. So funny enough, we found that nearly 3/4, 75% of all celebrity brands that have opened physical stores have opened in malls. A lot of that has to do with, like you said, the OVO company. They've opened in a lot of malls across Canada and a few in the US as well. Also Fabletics, that's a real big one that has really embraced malls and has found a lot of success in opening in those areas as well. And I think that sort of underscores the idea of, celebrity brands being sort of a a subcategory of the broader digitally native retailer category, which we've obviously seen explode in popularity in the last 10 years. You think of brands like Lululemon, Warby Parker, Bonobos, who are now, mainstays and, physical retail giants in a lot of ways. Warby Parker announcing hundreds of new stores. We're seeing these celebrity brands follow in their footsteps. We saw that the digitally native retailers, they made some of their mistakes, and the celebrity brands are just sort of correcting, taking the right course here and there. And one of the best plans of actions we've seen is opening in malls. There seems to be a lot of synergy happening right now between malls who have some vacancy that they're hoping to fill, and celebrities who are hoping to try their hand at retail, but may not know exactly how to do it, may not be well funded enough or even confident enough to open in Soho or make a splashy entrance somewhere in Hollywood. And so they're opting for malls to sort of get their feet wet, get their exposure to physical retail, and then prove through the numbers that it's a profitable avenue for them and continue expanding in that way. So I was really shocked to see just how many of them embrace malls in that way. And I think I don't know about you guys, but anecdotally, when I go to malls these days, I feel like I see a lot of these digitally native brands, sort of forming their own clusters within these malls. So it's definitely a growing trend. And when we think of celebrity brands as a subcategory of that, we see how that's going to continue to grow as well.
Yeah, and to support that, Khloe Kardashian's Good American, their first physical store was at a Westfield mall in LA.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, yeah,
Once
seriously.
Again.
Skims has tested a lot of pop-ups in malls. I think they're opening in street retail in West Hollywood, but there's a bunch of
opening
brands.
in 2024, New York
Right.
City.
And in LA,
it'll be West Hollywood and then New York City after. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, definitely. And even brands like Savage X Fenty, Rihanna's lingerie line, they've really embraced malls as well. I'm pretty sure their first physical store was at Fashions Row in Las Vegas, which we know is a really popular mall out there. So definitely a lot of exposure in malls, and definitely something that I think mall operators want to pay attention to when it comes to filling up some of that vacancy that has been arising.
Yeah. So what's our outlook for celebrity retail, celebrity restaurants? So this kind of like the narrative is this really came about during the lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now they're on strike, right?
Right.
So we should see more brands in the future, right? While they're not making movies and scripted movies and TV shows.
Right. No, I mean, this is such a rapidly evolving sort of space, right? Which is why I really was excited for us to get our research out there and to sort of put our own JLO perspective out there, because like you said, it remains to be seen how the writer's strike is going to affect, it's obviously canceling all Hollywood production for the foreseeable future. And so, there's a lot of rules with how their celebrities are even allowed to participate in business and marketing. They can't go on a show like this and plug their latest movie or something like that. That's considered crossing the picket line, right? So it's very likely that we could see some celebrities shift towards retail again. There's so many established success stories from celebrities across different industries, musicians, actors, influencers, and so there's a lot of opportunity here for them to follow in those footsteps and take those sort of similar paths down. So I definitely think that could impact the industry, and we could see a lot of celebrity retail brands pop up next year or the year after as a result of the way that the strikes are sort of putting it on pause. But yeah, no, I mean the space is just rapidly evolving. Like I said, I think the day after we submitted the final draft to our marketing team is when the Skims valuation news came out, and they were valued at around $4 billion. And I was like, well, it's unfortunate that I couldn't put this in the report, but I think that really speaks to how well timed this entire sort of situation is. So I see a lot more like I keep saying, growth in that space. I don't think our fascination with celebrity or with social media is going to die down anytime soon. As much as I wish that I would use my phone less, I only really see my screen time increasing, unfortunately. And so I think with the nature of our habits when it comes to social media and things like that, it just makes for a prime and really ripe environment for these brands to see success. And what we're seeing them understand is that part of that path to success involves opening physical stores. There is sort of a cap as to how much these brands can grow online, especially like I mentioned, as customer acquisition costs, marketing costs continue to skyrocket. We saw that those costs have tripled in the last 5 years. The cost to acquire one customer online, and a lot of these brands, digitally native and celebrity and otherwise, are seeing that opening physical stores is a really lucrative way to brand themselves, to market to new consumers, and to continue to push their products out. And so I think everything sort of creates for a really potent ecosystem for growth here.
So we talked about, you mentioned Pharrell, so music.
Right.
We talked about Rihanna music again.
Right.
Are musicians, like, what is the most common celebrity category, Ebere, that creates a brand?
So we found that actually actors were more common than musicians. Yeah. So actors were at, I think, at around 35% or so. And then musicians were the next most popular category. So some example, I mentioned Kate Hudson with Fabletics. She was one of the co-founders of that brand, and they now have 95 stores across the country. So, definitely doing very well. We also see, Reese Witherspoon, right? She has an apparel brand called Draper James. And I believe they opened their first store in Nashville, and they, have opened, I believe, around 5. I think they've since maybe closed 1 or 2. So they're still hovering around 3 or 4 stores in the country, in Nashville, Dallas, and in California as well. And then, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, I think they're a very interesting, again, in the actor category, example of sort of transcending maybe some sort of moniker of celebrity brand and, really creating a true luxury brand, So their brand, The Row, is a very well-established luxury retail brand. They have fashion shows in Paris every season. They're very well respected. And I think it honestly took me a while to realize that they were founded by Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. I didn't think that at first. I thought it was just like another regular luxury brand. But we see, the actors and musicians are very active in that space. And I think that's sort of speaks to the fascination that we have with the clothes that they're wearing, the things that they have on them. They sort of intrinsically brand themselves as fashion icons or as style gurus, and then it makes all of us want to say, well, I really love that, in the case of The Row, flowy tunic that I see Mary-Kate and Ashley wearing. Where can I get something like that? And so we, that sort of fascination, it just breeds a lot of opportunity for retail sales.
Another one that's like out of left field, not a musician or really an actor, is Chip and Joanna Gaines with the silos, because they didn't open just a restaurant or just a retail shop. They have,
it's a whole town, right?
really a lifestyle shopping center. They've got it all, right?
Yeah. And, man, people who, and Ebere, they may not be on your radar, but in my universe, Chip and JoJo, they're like super famous. The fixer-upper people. Everybody in my family loves them. And if you're a super fan, you're gonna travel to their whole retail food and beverage complex.
Silos.
The Silos, which is Waco, right? Waco, Texas. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, we got a
field trip, James. Sounds like a field trip. We got to take an offsite.
Can I come?
Absolutely. Sir, we're out.
Just for research, obviously.
All right, here's a question from Zach Paul. Is there some inherent risk for celebrity influencer collaboration in the event of becoming less popular? Scandal, inauthentic. Scandal's the big one.
Definitely.
Thinking about Kanye on that. That can be a risk. You're pouring all of your brand equity. You've got to be pretty certain that it's safe with whoever this celebrity is.
Yeah, definitely. That is a great point, and something that occurred to me as well. I don't really know who the CEO of I don't know. Wilson socks. I don't know. I'm just thinking of a clothing brand I wear, right? I don't really know who that is, right? So his behavior, his actions aren't going to impact my, shopping pattern, whether I want to support them or not. Whereas, I definitely know who Kim Kardashian is. I know who Rihanna is. And so there is a little bit of risk associated with that. But I think, again, just thinking about the size of these celebrities' fan bases sort of puts into context the way that they're able to stay profitable. We found in the report that celebrities that have started retail brands have a combined 7 billion followers on Instagram alone, So we're talking just Instagram, not even including TikTok, YouTube, all the other social platforms where they're able to. I'm sure some of them even have like email listservs, right? With it, any number of millions of people on there as well. So although there definitely is that risk, like Zach mentioned, I do think that sometimes some things can seem a little bit bigger to some of us than they actually might be in reality to 7 billion people on Instagram alone, So I think the size of their fan base sometimes allows them to, I wouldn't say makes them completely foolproof when it comes to this, but does give them, some sort of security, I think, in that way, as well as, great advertising and marketing agencies like Quiet Valor, who can help them navigate any sort of, trouble that they're getting into.
So-
All you need is a good publicist. and you'll be
Adidas and
fine.
Yeezy come to mind when you ask that question.
Yep.
Right.
And all it comes down to is if you're a brand and you're partnering with a celebrity and something goes down, is as a brand you take a stand, right?
Mhm.
Like Adidas did, right? And this happens all the time,
Right.
and which is why it is a risk, right? But it's a lot less than the benefit that's gained from it. And it's really just how you position yourself as the brand. If you're like, we're sticking by them no matter what, sometimes that is appropriate
Right.
on the circumstance, but typically if it's a situation, as the brand, you just make a statement that we're no longer working with this, and you state what your belief is as a brand. So it's not as crazy as it, obviously Adidas it was.
That was a big
Had a
deal.
lot invested.
So,
Right.
Sarah, you advise brands on partnerships with influencers. How do
Yeah.
you vet them? You're doing like research? Does this person feel like a wild card? Do they feel stable? What's that all about?
Absolutely. It's just like it's the same concept as if you're hiring somebody, you do your due diligence, right?
Right.
So you see what are they posting, what are their belief systems, who do they surround themselves with? And that's another one. There's some celebrities that their team is a hot mess. I mean, it is what
I
it is,
believe it.
right?
I
Some are
believe it.
super buttoned up, and some of their teams are just a disaster to work with. And that's important to know before you enter a partnership with somebody, right? Because you need someone who's gonna somewhat conform to the professional environment that we live in. And sometimes it's not possible. So, but yeah, it's just doing your homework, making sure that you know them, their history. The one great thing about people in life is they are consistent, right? You can always guarantee that they are going to do what they've done. And so yeah, so as long as you do that, you're good.
So watch out for the hot messes.
Hot Mess Express.
Pro tip.
And so give us some names, Sarah. I kid. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. This hour's just flown by. It's been a fascinating conversation. And Ebere, you're a regular. Sarah, we'd love to have you back again sometime
I'd
soon.
love to be back.
Awesome. Thank you. For folks out there who want to read all of our awesome research reports, go over to jll.com. There's an insights button. I think I was looking, we do a new retail report every month that gets posted to the website. So the next one coming up is going to be about luxury retail. Ebere also wrote that one. It's going to be another awesome one. I just saw the draft this morning and it looks fantastic. If you want to be sure not to miss anything we do video-wise, go to this website, everythingweknow.show. That'll take you to our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. Will always be in your feed. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, the thing to do is to follow JLL Retail. That way, every monthly LinkedIn Live event that we do is going to be right there popping up whenever you need it. And if you're interested in more of this, if this is not enough, you should be listening to our podcast. It's called Where We Buy. It's about all things retail and retail real estate. We do an audio podcast every week. You can check it out over at wherewebuy.show. So we're going to be back again next month with a new LinkedIn Live / YouTube Live event. So what did I learn about retail today? So this is everything that we know about retail. I think I learned that you really can get a lot of value out of partnering with a celebrity. And if you're a restaurateur, if you're a chef, you should be doing everything in your power to get the word out there using all of the media at your disposal. So that's what I learned about retail. If you want to learn more about everything that we know about retail, you can join us here again next month.